Hello, Krabby Patty secret formulas. So, you might notice something a little different. I changed the color of the lights. And I'm also a clown. And, I get that the changing lights and brightness of this video might be jarring, but I'm trying to prove a point. So, and that point is ad hominem is stupid. And even if I look like a clown, my arguments are still valid. So, suck on that. And furthermore, one of my friends told me that I should cut silence more. And just so you know, if there is silence that, because I do cut silence. Oh, trust I do. um, I will I pause for comedic. I I pause for comedic effect, so it's usually intentional. Another thing I want to say is that if you're here for like video essay type visual venture Einabber videos, that's not, you're at the wrong place. You got off at the wrong stop. Get back on the bus and keep going. Anyway, let me just pull up these notes. It's a wild one today. This is the first controversial video. I don't know if this counts as controversy. I guess it does, but it's I was on the talk today. You should go follow my TikTok. It's something. But yeah, go follow my TikTok. Anyway, so I was on TikTok today and I saw this clip of Paw Patrol, the new Paw Patrol show or whatever. Now, I have a lot of things to say about this. And I have a lot of things not to say about this. I don't know. This is weird. This is weird. It's a weird situation. It's sticky. Okay, so first question: why isn't there a print on the girls? I get if you at first I thought it was a print, and if you look closer, it is cement dropping off of the boy that stuck to him. Okay, that's that's one thing we've gotten past. Why didn't it? Why not for the girl? Why not for both of them? And why for either? Why for either of them? Why is it there? Why is it there? And that's where we kind of get into like the I require context. We kind of all require context. Um was it an animation error? Is it supposed to be a hidden adult joke? Cuz if so, what's the joke? What would the joke be? Like, I don't care whether you think it's weird or not, or whether you think the joke was sexual. What is the joke? That boys have, like, what? I'm confused. What would the joke be if that is a joke? If that is supposed to be a joke and not an animation error? And if it is an animation error, why isn't that being looked at? How is that? I really am trying to play devil's advocate here. I just can't see a world where, like, why would that be an animation error? That doesn't look like something that wasn't meant to happen. That looks like someone animated a drop falling. So, I'm assuming that was not an animation error, but maybe it was. I'm assuming it's not, though. So, why is it there? What's the joke? And, you know, I've seen a lot of people have the take that people are being too sensitive. If there's ever online controversy and that's something you say, you're silly. Because, see, when something feels bad to someone or feels off, that doesn't mean they're too sensitive. That means they're thinking about it, you know? But when someone calls something out or is even, you know, questioning whether or not this is weird or questioning the intent or calling out the very common phenomenon of harmful sexual jokes being made in children's media, you can't just go on to say that's too sensitive of you. What do you mean by that? Too sensitive? You I'm going to have a take here. You cannot be too sensitive about this kind of stuff. Sexual innuendos in children's media. You can't be too sensitive about that. And if you don't care, one, if you don't care, I'm going to assume you don't have kids. And two, if you don't care, I'm going to assume you want kids and not of your own. You know what I mean by that. Furthermore, there's ways adult jokes can be made in children's media safely, but they don't need to be. And I think that the abundance of adult jokes in children's media stems from two things. Okay? Two things. Number one, companies want their shows and their media to appeal to everyone. Obviously, they want it to appeal to everyone. And this isn't just with shows and movies. This is like with those LOL dolls, things like that. Okay? Things like that. They want to appeal to a larger audience, not just children, because why? Money. They want money. Everyone wants money. And so that's one part of it, I think. And another part of it is, and now I'm not saying all, a very good heap of parents, and I've babysat before. I feel this way too. Sometimes when I watch things with the kids I'm babysitting, you don't feel mentally stimulated by the shit you're watching with them. It's like Cocomelon or is something stupid that they're interested in, and you don't understand it because obviously we want something that's mentally stimulating when we are seeking entertainment. But here's the problem with that. When you're taking care of a kid, it's not because you want to be entertained. It's because you need to take care of a child. Sometimes you're going to have to engage in the media and the things that your kid likes that you don't and that you think is stupid or boring. And sometimes you do have to act like you care. Whether you're a parent or not, that's just like if you're taking care of a kid. That's just like how it works. That's how you be a decent person, a decent caregiver, is you act like you give a fuck, even if you don't. And furthermore, you like don't need to be entertained every single second. I have ADHD. Well, I have inattentive ADHD, which was just ADD, but it's all a jumble now. And so I understand how it feels when you aren't being stimulated. I understand that boredom can feel so much bigger than that, and that boredom can feel like as deep as hatred in your soul. For me, at least, sometimes I will cry because I'm so bored. But that's one thing. I know myself. I don't, and now that I've grown up, I don't take care of kids that much. I don't babysit because that's just not something that I'm equipped for. I like the explicit things that I participate in. I like the adult jokes I participate in and watch on TV. So when I babysit my little cousin or when I babysit kids, I'm not there to, you know, have my own free time. That's not free time. You're basically working. At least that's how it felt to me. Take that with a grain of salt. So, another thing is not focusing on what your children are consuming. So, and I mean media, but you wouldn't leave, and when I say children, I don't mean like 12, 13, 14. Obviously, you should still monitor them to a certain degree, but I'm talking toddlers, 10 and under type stuff. you wouldn't leave your kid with a plate of food and then walk away. Or you wouldn't just buy something from the store without, like, you know, looking at it at all before feeding it to your kid. So, in that, because they're consuming it. The same, and I think it's actually even more important with media, because that's their brain. You can buy different food, but once your child has seen it, your child has seen it. It's not, and if you take care of kids, I'm assuming you know what the formative years are. That's not something you play around with. Not at all. What they see, the content they consume, is so very important at those ages. So very important. And so I think there's a big problem with media trying to cater to everyone. An example of this on a, I don't know if I should say smaller scale or bigger scale. It's just like a different scale. Not even like in size, but is Miranda Sings. She was making content for kids but also making weird adult jokes. You cannot do that. You have to pick one. 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 So, what are some things that you can watch with your kids that are mentally stimulating for both of you? That, in my opinion, Bluey. Bluey is a very good show, I think, and that's been debated. This is my opinion, of course. Bluey, Adventure Time, Studio Ghibli movies. Of course, there's some of them that aren't necessarily like 5-10-year-old age things, but most of them, Steven Universe, things like that. But even so, don't take my word for it. Only you know what you want your kid to see. I don't know what you want your child to consume. I know what I consumed, and I know what was good for me and what was bad for me. But, I don't know what you're seeking. So, when I tell you, "Hey, this is a recommendation," you don't just go put that on with your kid. You don't even put that on and watch it with your kid. You should watch it first. You should watch the first few episodes and then show your kid. You should research. Like, are they supporting what you want to support? Are they teaching what you want your kid to be taught? So that when you find out they're being taught these things, you don't get mad at the people who are teaching them or putting this content out, because you're the one feeding it to your kids. Now, there is a lot of nuance as well, and gray area, I should say, in this Paw Patrol thing. I'm going to say that my opinion on this is fluid. Because this is very fresh and new, at least from what I've seen. I only heard about this today. So, if it was an animation error, okay, why aren't we looking at that more? It doesn't look like an animation error. It really doesn't, but maybe. But yeah. And if it's a joke, what's the joke? I just saying that again, I don't get the joke. And whether or not you think, because I see a lot of people saying, why are you guys making it weird? Every kid has genitalia. Everyone has. Okay, why are we bringing that up though? Why is that a joke being made here? What is the joke? Kids aren't Are kids even laughing at it? Why do there need to be adult jokes in there? You don't need to be entertained while watching media with your children. You need to be taking care of your children. Sure, there is things that you can all sit down and watch as a family that are funny to everyone, but hidden adult jokes, there's different kinds, okay? There's ones about smoking, things like that, and then there's hidden sexual innuendos. Those are harmful. There doesn't need to be sexual jokes made in kids movies. And I don't think this is too woke or too sensitive. This is a very big problem with exposure to things like this. A lot of the things we see kids these days engaging in, things we see them doing, things we see them acting out, things we see them wanting to do, talking about, engaging in. It's it all ties back to the content that they are consuming and the content that you are letting them consume. So, what do we take away from this video? And what's my closing point? What's the joke? Why is it there? Is it an animation error? Why wasn't there one on the girls? If we are making a joke about, oh, it's stuck to the guy because the guy has the guy part, why is that there? Obviously, kids already know that, and that doesn't seem like a good. It's not like it's a productive teaching point about people's bodies. It's weird. Why is it there? What's the joke? Furthermore, tying back to the reason I look like a clown right now, if you do disagree with me and you do plan on counter arguing, one, I suggest you do it respectfully, or I just think I'm not going to reply because that's just not how we argue and discuss differing opinions as big kids, okay? And I'm ad hominem has no place here. I want to say that ad hominem has no place here. Okay? So if you disagree with something I said, talk about my words and my argument, not this or any of this, because it has nothing to do with my opinions or what I say. It doesn't affect it. I could be, completely red skin, red glasses, red everything, and I could still have good takes or bad takes. It has nothing to do with my appearance, the like you can't just attack someone's character because you don't like their opinion. You need to counter argue, to productively argue. And furthermore, are you arguing to change minds, or are you arguing because you think you're right and you are upset that people aren't listening? That's another thing. And we can't soft launch sexual jokes in children's media to children. Nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort. See, that's so harmful, actually. And I'm not going to explain why it's harmful because you should know. I'm all for learning and I'm all for education, but that is common sense. Do I have to explain why we shouldn't be slowly trying to introduce kids to sexual jokes? Do I really have to explain that? No, I don't. No, I don't. So, yeah, I think it's weird. I wonder why it wasn't for the girl. What's the joke? Looking through my notes, making sure I have no more takes I missed. So, yeah, that's all I got. And just gonna reiterate, if you want like linear, on topic, on track videos where I'm not like, what did I say again? You shouldn't be here for that. You shouldn't be here for that. That's not me. If that's what you want, that's cool. Sometimes I want that too, but that's not what I'm gonna do. And I'm not gonna start doing it because I like what I do and what I'm doing. So, yeah. Don't clown around. That was pun intentional. Bye.